Right, key squares in the opposition. Starting off unbelievably simple. Um, this position, we just have to know it basically. That if it's white to play, it's a draw, and if it's black to play, then black loses, white wins, and it's as simple as that. Um, if you move the pawn up to the fifth rank, then these are the three key squares, and it doesn't matter whose move it is, white wins. So those are just sort of two facts that I just think I think basically every chess player should just know that straight away. Obviously, if it's a rook's pawn, it's a draw. But for any non-rook's pawn, white to play is a draw, black to play loses. And in the Dvoretsky book, there's even an example where I'll show a similar position later on, but where black could have got this position with white to play and just resigned, which is obviously bizarre. So yeah, and there's lots of positions in the Dvoretsky book where they're about to get sort of in typical fashion for this book. It starts off pretty simple, and then all of a sudden it just ramps up in difficulty. We're about to see a bonkers position pretty soon. But first of all, there's this position here. Have a go at pausing the video and working out, what you can do as white to try and win this. And there's only one winning move, and what you need to do is first of all bring this pawn forward. So you play King F2, and if black doesn't play H4, we can see that black tries to get their king closer. I mean, what does black try here? This is just completely lost. It's hopeless. It's completely lost for black. Okay, so the first move is H4, where if we carry on pushing the king, then black can then play H3. So that's a problem. So what you need to do then is come back to G1. That's the incredible winning move. I've often seen this position set up from this particular point, and you could easily get this in a game, by the way. So just be careful of one tactic that the defending team will try and do is convert this knight's pawn into a rook's pawn. So just watch out for them. And here it's a study from 1952, and yeah, it's quite nice, isn't it? It's sort of counterintuitive to move your king in one direction then back in another. So yeah, King F2, not King C7, King D7, sorry, or King C7 for that matter. H4, and then you bring your king back to G1. Black will try and bring their king. Well, I say black will try and bring their king closer. The point is that after H3, we don't convert our knight's pawn into a rook's pawn. We play G3. Then maybe black brings the king in, and they're just not getting across in time, basically. What could they even try here? I mean, they could try King F5. Obviously, we're going to play King H4. King F6. We're also going to play King H4. And we have that position. Black to play loses. And if I think I was mentioning if black tries to bring their king in straight away, so we go King F2. Not that. H4. King back to G1. And then black tries to bring their king in, and again they're just not in time. I mean, there's just nothing they can do really. Let's say black tries to be sneaky, and I mean, if I was playing this as black, I would probably just come back here with the king and hope that white played their pawn forward by mistake. I'd probably try something like this. Even this doesn't really help, does it? Because we can come to G4. You think, aha, I've got the opposition. Not really. I can use my spare pawn move. Black to play is a loss. So that was a good study. Pretty simple one, just around. You've just got to know that position. Then there's the tragicomedies section. I mean, you could pause the video in here and have a go. Like, how do you mess this up as white? Basically, if I told you, let's imagine I played a game and I say, wow, I had this position, and you'll be like, oh, how did you not draw this? and then you're like, oh, I know what you did. And yeah, so this is in the Dvoretsky tragicomedy section. Rook f4, oops. And what does white do? I mean, they just have to take the rook. We're threatening rook takes f4, which just wins our rook, and it's pinned to our king. So we only have one move, which is that. White to play, loses. You know, I mean, I wonder if the person who played that game, because I think it was a fairly high level game where they just also had a moment of madness. I wonder if surely they just knew this position, but somehow weren't able to think. Well, they just missed King G5, didn't they? And they just turned their brain off and missed King G5. I mean, it's a trivially drawn rook endgame. I mean, you've got the Philidor position, one or possibly even two ranks further up. Then we're on to trickier stuff. So this position here is actually in the Jan Timman 100 endgame studies. You must know. So this is a bit harder, but does finish with the same principle. And I mean, as just a little hint, if we go back to this position here, I think one of the variations I played through on this one was where I was saying I was going to try and get the black king back. I'm trying to find it now, what I actually did. Let's just go through it again because I can't seem to find it for some reason. King back, and then we'll try this. Oh, I have found it, the king this line here. And I sort of came back with the king, and we got this, like, you know, white's got a spare move with their pawn. So I guess black's a bit gutted in that position that, oh, if only I'd found a way to force white to move his pawn forward sooner, which is sort of a bit of a hint as to what's going on here. White to play, I mean, at first, you know, your first thought might be, well, white's doing well here because they're about to win a pawn and it's 2 pawns versus 1, but you soon realise, no, white's in big trouble. So pause the video and work out how white can get out of big trouble. And you have to start off by taking with the h-pawn. I mean, if you take with the f-pawn, that's fairly clearly lost. Because, I mean, these are the 3 key squares. We're going to round up both of those pawns. Next move, king takes h4. If you push the g-pawn, we can just take it. And these are the 3 squares, and we're already occupying h4. And if whatever you do with your king, black will just come back and take this one, and we're on one of the 3 key squares. I mean, those are key squares because it doesn't matter about the opposition, because even if you haven't got it, we can always use this as a spare pawn move. So taking with the f-pawn, we've lost. If we take with the h-pawn, you might think, well, that's a similar problem, isn't it? Because black can come here, and they're going to come into g4 and start rounding up your pawns and sort of be further ahead of their pawn. And it's actually one of those studies you might get right, just because there's nothing else you could think of to do other than start to push those pawns. So we could, what we do, we push the g-pawn. If king takes, actually, well, then we can just come and defend our f-pawn. I just want to show you something, actually, because I'm just going to play this sort of relatively badly for white now, actually, because white doesn't actually need to do anything once this black pawn reaches f5, but just as a sort of yeah, this isn't black's best move, but just to give you an idea, just to go back to the position where someone resigned, apparently. So let's just play some what we may be seen as rubbish moves by white, but they're fine moves as white when it doesn't change the result. And it was a position like this where white resigned, and there's just no need to resign. There's only one way to lose this, and there's to come. Well, I suppose you could lose it by going off here or something, but as long as you're ready to jump to f2 when black takes on f4, you're sorted. So there's a draw, and you know, black just can't do anything. But apparently white resigned in a position like that. Anyway, sorry, that was a bit of a distraction from push the g pawn. It's fairly clear if king takes, we're going to come in, defend the f pawn. It's an easy draw. So we have pawn takes. Then what? Because again, black's going to come in, take this pawn, and they're on one of the 3 key squares. So you've had it. Well, now you push this pawn. But now black's got the opposition. They've got the distant opposition here. There's only one drawing move. King h2 loses because black keeps the opposition. King g2 loses because black keeps the opposition. In fact, let's just see that one because that's quite instructive. White to play that same crucial position. White's lost. And even, one move further back, white's lost. Which only leaves really one option. It's given you know there's a draw, well, it must be this. And you think, I don't know how that helps, because then we've got the opposition still. And whatever I do next, black's going to just keep that opposition. No, they're not, because black can't take their own pawn. And now this is just a draw. If the black king comes in, you either take the opposition, or unless the black king has gone offside, in which case you just come forward. And if the pawn gets pushed, I don't think there's much to be careful of, is there? If the pawn gets pushed, it's just the only way black can make progress is to push the pawn and then just always move straight back, that one. So yeah, that was kind of quite a good study. That was from 1918. Someone came up with that study, and it all hinged on knowledge of that crucial position, but also using your pawns in what looks like a hopeless situation to bring your opponent's pawn forward, because you need your opponent's, in this case f7 pawn, to come forward, because if the black king's too far in front of it, you've had it. This one's mental. I really enjoyed this one. This is a I don't know if I could found it in the Jan Timman book, actually. It's in Dvoretsky's manual, but and you think, I looked at this and I think, this is obviously a study. It's not a study. This actually happened in a game, and I think it's hard to make complete sense of the annotations, but I think the players played it through, which is even more astonishing. I mean, you look at this and you think, what's this got to do with what we were just going through? And you'll see it does end up in exactly what we're just going through. But first of all, have a go at pausing the video and working out what white could do in this situation. Pause the video and have a go at it. So, I mean, white's obviously in a bit of trouble here. Their knight's attacked. It's pinned to the king. And we can't defend it with a rook, so we're gonna defend it with the king, basically. So we play the most sensible move, king g3. But there's another problem going on where this bishop is about to come and sort of skewer that rook and knight, or a better move that black's got here is to take that knight. And if you take it with the king, you've had it. Bishop b6 is a very easy win for black. I would just casually glance down there, by the way. That is a dark square matching that bishop. So there's not even anything to check. It's just a trivial win for black if you take that back. So you've got to do something about that. And the only sensible thing you can do is this rook h5 check. Now, if black doesn't attack your rook with their checked king, your next move is king takes f2. And that position, well, I think white might even be winning that, to be honest. So black's obviously got to attack this rook. And then it looks like you're in a bit of a mess still, because you're a piece down here. If you just move your rook, black's going to move their rook, so you have to do something productive. So you attack the bishop. So black's got their bishop attacked, and they've got their, sorry, that's a rook I just pointed out. I said bishop. But they have got their bishop attacked, but I was looking at the rook. They've got their bishop attacked, and they've got their rook attacked. What are they going to do about it? Well, you would just immediately look for one moves and defends the other. This rook can't defend the bishop, but the bishop can defend the rook. By the way, actually, the reason we chucked in that check Well, first of all, we were going to get our rook pinned. But another thing we wanted to do was we wanted to bring the king forward to this sixth rank. Because if we just do this, and then black does the same defending the rook, rook d7 check, black's just going to go back to the 8th rank. They're not forced to come to the 6th rank this time because their rook's already defended. So it was important to chuck in that rook h5 check, force the king to come forward, then attack the bishop. And the point is that the king's on the 6th rank, so we can actually now fork the bishop and the king. King's got to go somewhere sensible, and we're in the endgame, so let's centralise that king. That's the most sensible move. And then we take the bishop. And it's fairly easy to think from here, right? Black retakes politely just takes your rook, you take black's rook, and it's done. But black doesn't take the rook. Black tracks in this intermezzo check. Rook takes f3. And if you want, pause the video again and have a go at, because you might be finally starting to see how this is relevant to key squares and the opposition. I mean, the fact I'm saying you might like to pause the video and work out what you'll play next here as white kind of gives it away in a way, because it's like, why do you get it to pause the video? It's like, it's obvious what you need to do. And then you think, oh, it's not obvious. If I take that rook, oops, black's got the opposition. White plays a loss. So the incredible move at the end of all that messing around, king g2 draws the game. Unbelievable. Absolutely brilliant position. I don't say absolutely brilliant study, but apparently this did happen in a game. And yeah, the idea is that when black retakes the rook, then white's got the opposition. So we're going to get exactly the same position, but this time we're going to get it with black to move, and that's then a draw. I suppose in a game you'd realise that and do something to keep the rooks on, but it's absolutely hopeless. It's very easy for white to draw that against the rook's pawn, even if you have to get into the Vancouver defence or something. I doubt it's even as hard as that. It looks like a very easy draw to me. So that was that mental position, and it all in the end hinged around coming back to this one crucial position that I think every chess player just absolutely has to know inside out. The idea that you could see everything from here, yeah, you wouldn't realise that was what was about to happen, would you? So yeah, I really enjoyed that one. It's a similar sort of thing going on here. Opposition's important. Key squares are going to come into this one as well. Pause the video, white to play, and try and do the best they can. So this one's all about, again, what you really need to do, because you soon realise that you're in a bit of a mess here. You're going to be at least losing this pawn. It's all about trying to force black to bring these pawns forward. So if you, for example, if you just retreat your king, you're just dead. You're losing this pawn. It doesn't really matter where the king goes, h2, g2. There's absolutely no way you're going to survive this, because black's just got all these spare moves they can play with these pawns. So you just can't do that. So the first move that you have to play is g5. Obviously, if black takes that, it's a very easy draw. Black doesn't take that. Black preserves their f pawn and plays f5. And obviously, you push the g pawn, you'd be in big trouble there, because black would just push the f pawn, and sort of, good luck with that one after king h4, king g6. That's just you dead. So you don't want to be doing that. When I say push the g pawn, you do push a g pawn, just not that one. Again, if you start coming back with the king, then black's going to come in here. You either end up in a sort of transposed into that one we just had, or you end up losing this g-pawn and you've given black these spare moves again. You're trying to limit the number of spare moves that black has. So the brilliant drawing move is this g6. I mean, the idea is if black takes that, then we can just come into g5. I don't know, black plays king f7, and now we can push the g pawn. Okay, and this king sort of behind it's what's going to be the last remaining pawn. So they can't do that, but they can try h6 because they're now going to win the g6 pawn. We retreat to h4, king g6. King h3, king h5 or g5, I don't think it really matters, does it particularly? Because I think black's just going to play a move that pretty much forces your king back, and then they can play king g4, basically. So on your next move as white, you have to be ready for king g4 as black's next move. That's it, really. So it's like when black plays king g4, what do you want to play, bearing in mind that they could then play h5. And we want to meet king g4 with king g2. Okay. This is why the black pawn couldn't be on h7. You would have just given them that extra move, because you get king g4, king g2. If it's white to play in this position, white's lost. And if the pawn was on h7, that would make it white to move. But the only way black can make any progress, unless they want to just sort of go around in circles and retreat their king, is to push the h-pawn. And you've got two choices here, well, two sensible choices here really to hang on to g3, but it all comes back to that position again. Because, whichever way you move the king, one thing black could do is push the pawn on that side and gain the opposition against you. You can't really stop black gaining the opposition one rank in front of one of these two pawns. You can't stop it, because when black pushes one of those pawns, if you don't do something about it, they're going to take on g3, which talk English eventually, with whichever pawn they pushed. So black is going to get the opposition, and we know that if it's in front of the f pawn, you're dead. Whereas if it's a rook pawn, it's a draw. So we go king f2. And yeah, sure, black can get the opposition, but it's black's rook's pawn that survives. That particular position is given as a sort of a simpler example earlier on in Dvoretsky's manual, and later on he just goes straight into this as one of the exercises. Yeah, I really like that. It took me a long time to get it. I don't think I did actually. I think I had to sort of. I think I found g5 but didn't find g6 the first time I looked at it. So this is more just generally about the opposition. If you've seen this before, you'll just sort of probably immediately smirk and think, oh yeah, I've seen this one before. But this one is just pointing out the opposition doesn't have to be, in front. It can be from the side. So pause the video and work out what would you do as white to, well, you want to try and draw this position, don't you? Otherwise, I don't think you're getting anywhere if you don't. You're trying to win it, obviously. So white to play and draw. Pause the video and have a go at it. And knowing it's about the opposition again kind of gives it away. You could draw all the corresponding squares if you really wanted to, or what we can do here is just take the side opposition, the distant side opposition, and we can just match whatever black does. If they go to d2, we go to h2. We go to d3, we go to h3. If they come to, there's one thing that black can do here that's reasonably obvious to sort of force you off the opposition, but not really. So let's just go for some of the simpler stuff first of all. King in, there, there, there. You just don't really care. You just keep the distant opposition. So the other thing that black could try is when we get to here, they could go, aha, you can't play king h4, but you can play king h2. The engine's actually also got king g4 and king g2 as drawing moves there. So yeah, king g2 is fine, isn't it? Because black can't play king e2. But I would happy to let them correspond, and if my king was on the other side, have them correspond. And there's just no way for black to make progress. So that's demonstrating the opposition from the side. I mean, just to show, if you tried anything else, let's say you make a run for this pawn and hope that does. I mean, you can see that does nothing. It's black's going to win this and push that. Do we need to show that? I don't think so. Not king e2 actually. King e2 would chuck away the win, because then we could correct our error. But let's go king e1. Yeah, white's in trouble here. So let's make a run for the pawn. And do we need to be careful here? King f2, king a2. I don't think we do actually, do we? No, because your king f2 looks the most sensible, because you can't even play king g3, so you don't even have to think about it. I mean, you can see that's just one for black. This one's very, very good, and yeah, this is all about the opposition, and this took me absolutely ages, and I didn't get it. And there was a thing right at the end I didn't quite get, but I felt by the time I had understood this one that I'd understood the opposition more than I did before. I mean, I only speak for myself, but the opposition sounds like one of those sort of trivial concepts. Yeah, we understand the opposition. That's basic stuff. That's beginner stuff. And what I found was, I don't think I did fully understand it, and I'm not even claiming that I now do. But this particular position really helped me, first of all, realise I didn't fully understand it, and then secondly, understand it better, which I suppose is progress. Pause the video, have a go at it. So this one's all about opposition from the side as well, and I mean, king e4 is sort of the obvious first move, and black will play king g4. Just to demonstrate something, first of all, I just want to play some silly moves here, just to return to this position, but with black to move, to show that it's a fairly sort of it's a very easy win for white. So if you can somehow, because black's got the opposition here, if you can wrestle that opposition off black, it's a fairly easy win for white. So that's one of the fights. In fact, that is the main fight going on. Can you somehow wrestle the opposition off black? So let's just do some silly moves. If I go over here and just play this, and black comes back into g4, and you play here. Now it's black to move, same position. I mean, there was at least one silly move that just happened just then, but just to show, I know black comes back here, king here. If they want to hold on to their pawn, they've got to play king g4, but then we can just come around the back, and we're going to be winning this. Basically, there's not really much black can do about it, is there? King f5, king g3, and then king g5. And, you know, we're going to win the f pawn, we're going to swap it for the g pawn at least. I suppose you'd probably try that. That was maybe black's best try. But you can see this is hopeless, and white's completely won. So it all revolves around, can white wrestle the opposition off black? If we go back to that starting position, king e4, king g4, you might try king e5, and then black's got king g5. black's still got the opposition, so what are you going to do about it? And you think, well, it's all right, I'm just going to come and win this because this b pawn's too fast compared to this f pawn. But if you count out the moves, I don't think it's even close at this point. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 moves. Okay, so if white makes a run for it, on their 8th move, they'll play b8 equals queen with their king on c6. Seems sensible, doesn't it? It's c6, isn't it? Don't put it on a6, obviously, because you'll get checked. But c6 seems sensible enough. Okay, so that's 8 moves. And then if white makes a run for it, black can make a run for it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I say black can make a run for it. Black might have to be a bit careful, which is the opposite. But yeah, if both sides just sort of abandon the opposition game and go for the race at the moment, we need an extra 3 moves from somewhere, don't we? Yeah, we need an extra 3 moves from somewhere. We either need our king closer to this pawn, or the black king further away from this one. Because if it's even 2 moves, b8 queen gets met by f1 queen, and that's just a draw. There's not going to be anything clever to win it. So we need an extra 3 moves from somewhere. Where are we going to find them? Well, going back to this position, I think you could even do it from this position actually, but. Yeah, you can do it. I mean, we could have done that on the last move, but let's do it from here. So king d5. One of the points is that if black plays king f5, that's a mistake, because now we can go king d4, and black's own pawn is stopping black from maintaining the opposition. White's got the opposition, and they can just go and win by outflanking on the king side and pick up the f pawn, or force black to swap the f4 pawn for the g2 pawn, as we've just seen. So they can't play king f5, but they can keep the distant opposition with king h5. That hasn't put black further away from this pawn, so it's still 6 moves for black to queen if white makes a run for it, but we're 7 moves to queen by making a run for it. And now we can play king c6. And in the race situation, we're now threatening to take this. I think we're 6 moves away. I've just done 8 minus 2, but let's just count it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 moves for us to queen our b pawn. And if black wants to keep the opposition, which is the g6 square, I think black's now, is that 7 moves away? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So black can't play king g6 because we would queen on our 6th move. I just realised it's a bishop's pawn actually. So just need to check that one sec. So I hadn't fully prepped this. Yeah, I sort of paused my recording there and just went away and checked that. And it's not just the bishop's pawn thing. I was right to worry about that. It would be a draw if you just went for the straight race. But the point is that we can still come back and swap the f pawn for the g pawn. Black's so far away from the g pawn that we can play king takes b5 and come back and grab the f pawn. Because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then our b pawn wins. So it's all to do with that. So in this position here, our last move was king c6. Black can't play king g6, and which is the move that keeps the opposition. So black loses the opposition at this point. So let's say they try king g5, then we've got the opposition. King to c5. What could they try from here? I mean, the opposition's sort of along this rank. So if black goes to g4 to stop you from stop you from keeping the distant opposition there. We could play king d6. We can even play, we can play king. We can use black's f4 pawn against them as well. So we can play king f4 because they can't play king d4. Sorry, because they can't play king f4. We can play king d5 because remember king f5 is a mistake because of this. And we can also play king d6, which is maybe the most natural. You've used the opposition to force them off this file. Now you use it. You go for the outflanking. What does black even try? We could go. Let's try king h5 again. King back to d5. King h4. King e6. So again, we've forced them off that rank. So use the opposition. Now move closer. King g4. And now we're around the back, aren't we? We're just going to come in and win that pawn. So yeah, you had to march the king. Really, really cool position, this one. You had to march the king all the way to c6, using the fact that black couldn't keep the opposition on g6 because you win the pawn race. It's not just a straight race between the b pawn and the f pawn, as I sort of mistakenly believed to begin with, before I sort of realised it was a bishop's pawn halfway through. But it is a race where you can win the b pawn, and not that route, but you can win the b pawn and come and swap the f pawn still for the g pawn, and your b pawn wins the day. Yeah, really like that one. Now the next one's going to look mental. It is in Dvoretsky's book, and I've really enjoyed sort of setting this as a puzzle for people at Belper Club as well, and watching everyone maybe enjoy it, but maybe not necessarily get it. And if you understand this one, I think this is a great one for understanding the opposition. I mean, obviously this is a win for white, and I might even set it up where I play it against Stockfish. Actually, I'll just try that in a sec. Stockfish will probably do some silly things, but it's a win for white. But there's a special rule, which is that you're only allowed to move your rook once. So you've got to get to checkmate here as white, but only moving the rook once, which of course has to be the move that delivers the checkmate. So pause the video and have a go at it, and I will try and set up a continue from here against the computer. This will be interesting to see what they do. I've got it on strength 8. So what was I going to say there? Sorry, I just realised my screen's gone a bit funny. In fact, let me just check that's worked out. Okay, yeah, that's worked out okay on the screen. I've forgotten what I was going to say. Yeah, the opposition. So I was going to go back to one of the. In fact, let me just do that actually. So I'll stop divering and go back to that other position. So let's just go back to this one, which is a position that right at the start that I said everyone just has to know. At the moment, I've got it with white to move, so this is a draw. But let's just get black to play some silly moves. So we'll do this. So we'll get back to the original position with white to move. So this is a position where white's got the opposition. Okay, we've got the opposition. Got the opposition here. Fantastic. So black moves here. You think, aha, I've got the opposition. Black goes back here. Aha, I've got the opposition. Look at me with my opposition. It's just like, well, yeah, you've got the opposition, but what are you doing with it? It's all very well knowing what the opposition is, but at some point you've got to make it useful. And the idea is that this is the key. Dvoretsky talks about sort of a key squares with a central axis going through them. So these are the 3 key squares that we're fighting over. And the point is that when the black king moves aside, we don't just sort of keep the opposition all day. We had the opposition on the important file, which was the D file. We've used it, so great. Now we can advance, and we've seen that already in the other position where the opposition was from the side. The opposition was on the 6th rank, was it, the 5th rank? And it's like when black moves off it, then we come in from the side, that kind of thing. And this position's trivial. You'll probably just win this position without really thinking too much about it in those terms. So let's now just go back to the position that's with the checkmate only moving the rook once. So I'm playing Stockfish on level 8 here, and I'm not sure what it's going to do. I'm going to play King A2, which is the distant opposition here. And I think black's best move at that point is King B8 to see, do you understand what it is you're trying to achieve here? I've got a feeling Stockfish is going to do something different. We'll see. So I'll play King A2. We're waiting for, okay, so let's play King B7, which is a bit annoying. It's made the task a bit easier. But I'm going to come to B3 and get that distant opposition. So this is the thing that I was sort of trying to talk about. I'm trying to advance my king up the board. And, you know, I can keep the opposition here if I want to. And we just go around in circles. It's like, woohoo, I've got the opposition. But what are you doing with it? It's like, you keep the opposition. And if I come forward to one of these two squares, I've given away the opposition. I'm never going to get the checkmate with just one move from the rook. And the point is I'm trying to force black off the B file, which I've now done. I've used my opposition to get black off the B file. So now we make some progress. Okay, you can block your own rooks, stopping the black king coming onto the C file, because you've forced the black king off the B file. And then we get the opposition here. Again, I forced the black king off the B file. So I had the opposition, I've used it to my advantage. It's done now. Use it. Stockfish isn't going to play King A5 here because that would be checkmating one. It's now just going to find the King A5 would have been met by Rook A1 checkmate. Obviously, it's just going to find the moves that prolong the checkmate now. So again, opposition on the B file. It's probably going to go King A7. Okay, I've used the opposition. I've got the king off the B file. Now use it. And well, I've got a choice here, haven't I? Let's just carry on with the same. Nope, I haven't got a choice. Sorry, I'm just talking rubbish. I have to play King C7. I was about to say I could come to B6 here, but then I've given the opposition away and I've just messed it up completely. So I have to play King C7 and King A7, and then we get the checkmate. There you go. That's that all sorted. So yeah, when I was playing against the computer there, it doesn't realise that you've only got one move with the rook, so it was maximizing the number of moves to checkmate. But if I was defending this as black, having given this as a puzzle to someone, after King A2, I would play King B8. And alright, you've got to play King B2, but then I'd go back to A8 and say, do you understand what you've done with that opposition? Like you've got the opposition, let's all have a party. Well done, but what are you doing with it? It's like once you've used it, progress. You've forced off the B file, and once sort of people clock that, it's sort of, I suppose the only other thing you think is then come down the A file. If black comes down the A file, you go up the C file. If they come back onto the B file, you take the opposition on the B file. If on the B file, take the opposition on the B file. If they go up the A file, you've made progress, and so on. If they come down the A file, you go up the C file, and we're pretty close to the end, but that's one possible checkmate there. Right, next. So this is about the opposition again. Pause the video and work out what you're going to do here as white. So I'd say this one's a bit tougher. The opposition thing going on, and the thing that Dvoretsky talks about with the major axis, and these are the three key squares. That's the major axis going on there. And the idea is that we're in a position where, I mean, you can take the distant opposition here, but it doesn't achieve anything, because opposition on the E file is not what's important here. We want to use the opposition that we just had. If you imagine the black king has just moved from F7 to E7, to advance. So we've just, if you like, we've just forced. You can't see the move because it was never there, possibly, but we've just forced the black king off the f file. So make progress. So the first move is king g2. But that's the axis running through with these three key squares. That's what Dvoretsky talks about. So black will, I don't know, play something sensible like king f6, and then we get the opposition. Now, if the black king comes forward, there's sort of two other things going on here. Whereas if the black king comes forward, and then obviously we can take the opposition there. And I'm not sure where it matters where the king goes. f5, probably f6. But you can actually even come into d4 now. And after king e7, well, you'd have to, if the black king is going to move round, you're going to have to make a move over here. Okay, but there's also, if the black king tried to stay forward here, I think we can push the c pawn, can't we, from here? I'm just cheating and look at the engine, but yeah, so we can push the c pawn here because we can't be stopped from getting to c6, which is clearly a win. So that's if the black king comes forward and tries to stay forward. And we've also just seen the black king then make a run for it to come around here. So it's a similar sort of situation if in this position, if the black king sort of goes over to the g file, then we can also make a run for the queen side. King f6, we can go king d4, let's say king e7, and again king c3. And king a5 will do, won't it? I don't think king b5 did it, actually, there, did it? No, king b5 would have messed it up. So yeah, king a5. Yeah, we're in there, aren't we? The only thing that black can do to stop us getting to one of these two squares is king b7, but then we force the issue. So black can't come forward too much because then we sit our king on d4 and play c5 at the right time. Or if black makes a run for it back to the queen side, we're just too fast. So black has to sort of wait around a little bit, ready to stop all of that. So I guess that one of the most sensible moves here is king back to e7. And again, the opposition on the e file is completely useless. If we play king e3 here, I mean, I'll come back to it in a sec. If we play king e3 here, it would then just be a draw. So we had the opposition on the f file. This is the major axis for these three key squares. Use it, make the progress, which is king g3. What does black try? Maybe, I mean, king f6 is obviously going to be my king f4. Let's try king f7, and then there's only one winning move, which is king f3. Again, black maybe comes back to e7. We had the opposition with now use it, and we're just going to outflank the black king. Maybe f6, king f4. What does black even do? If we try king e7 again, we can see we're outflanking and winning this pawn now. So maybe at this stage black tries king g6, but as soon as they do that, we can make a run for the queen side again. And we've already seen this position. So I think it's also instructive to see why the opposition on the e file is meaningless. It was all about the f file and these three key squares. So I said I'd come back to it. Here it is. So black's just played king back to e7, and the way we make progress is king g3. But if we say, oh, great, we've got the opposition on the e file, black just plays king e8. You think, hooray, I've got the opposition. Black plays king e7, and you can't play king e5. I mean, you can go backwards and forwards with the distant opposition, but you can't play king e5. And as soon as you come off the e file, black's then just got the opposition thereafter. There's just nothing you can do. So you have messed it up with king e3. I mean, trivially, if you go king f4, king f6, even king f8 was drawn there apparently. With the distant opposition, king f3, we can play king f7. And if we try and go the other way, we can go here, I suppose. I'm trying to work out a way we can trick black so that we can't even trick black, can we? King d4 can be met by well, even that's the opposition, but we can also just move the king across here because we can't take the opposition there. Yeah, so I thought that was also quite an instructive one for. It took me sort of quite a while to understand it, and Dvoretsky talks about this major axis with 3 key squares, or yeah, major axis through 3 key squares. They're the three key squares. Yeah, there's one more position I was going to look at, which is this study from 1913. Pause the video and work out what you're going to do as white. And this one's about opposition from the side again. And I think the major axis is this time on the 7th rank. And I think these might be the 3 key squares. But to gain the opposition, which is what this is all about, it's opposition from the side, we can use the fact that the c pawn's protecting b5, and we can play king f5. Black's only got 2 choices, and we're going to keep the opposition whichever one they go for. So king b6 gets met by king f6, king b7, king f7. And the point is we now have the opposition on the 7th rank. So whatever black does, we don't just keep this. I mean, if black just comes to king b6, we don't just come back to f6. We go to e8. And we've made the progress because we've forced black off. If black goes to b8, we can come to e6. And we'll keep making the progress that way. And then king c7, king e7. What should we try next as black here? I mean, again, we've got the opposition on the 7th rank, so we're going to move forward whichever way. So king c8, then we come in this way. King b7, d7, king b6. And, yeah, I mean, king c8, so we're just going to win all of black's pawns and win that from there. Dvoretsky actually goes for a position where we just win this pawn, and black gets to keep this one. And then that's actually quite interesting to go through as well. So, I mean, you can see this is clearly a win now for white. I mean, there's just nothing black can do to stop white winning all of those pawns. So that was sort of the better way of doing it. But yeah, that's it. You could also, from this position, play king d6, which wins. And it's worth seeing how, because it gets a bit more into mined squares than opposition. But it is a win. So obviously this pawn's now falling. So we'll play king, b7. King takes on c5. Let's go. Oh no, let's keep the c pawn. King b4, b6. And oh no, this is the bit, isn't it? Yeah. If we let black play c5, then it is a draw. We need just that little bit more extra space. We have to play c5 check. What would black do? Let's say black makes our lives a little bit more difficult. Well, they're not a lot more difficult. King takes a4 and king a6. So this is quite instructive as well, because this is a mined square situation. We have to get the white king to d6, but we want to do it in such a way that maximizes the amount of time that black's going to have to waste coming and collecting the a pawn and the c pawn. And the mined square situation is that as we come round, so we're winning a tempo there. So no, king b7, for example. Oh, I set this up wrongly. I think maybe black had a better defensive try, actually. best defensive try. So king b4, king a6. Oh no, see, here you have to go back to a4. And you do eventually have to play king b3. That's it, you have to play king b3 because you have to be ready to meet king a6 with king b4. So there you go, that was the first little finesse, king to b4. King goes back, and now just any old move to the c file is fine for now. King back to a6, and yeah, king d4 is d4 is a mined square because if we play king d4, king comes to b5, and we're losing the c pawn. So the move you need to play here is king d3. Absolutely brilliant. So if black steps on b5, which is the mined squares, these two squares correspond, then white plays king d4. And if black tries to be clever, again we can't play king d4 because black will play king b5. So you've got to play king e4. Again, this is still a mined square. That was a win. And yeah, I mean, that's clearly just a win. And let's just try the king b5, d4, takes there, takes there. And it's a win for white. So that's not really to do with key squares and the opposition, but it was at the end of this study, which was about the opposition. The best way to win it, well, you've got to play that. And once you've used the opposition and you've outflanked black by taking the opposition on the 7th rank, that's the important bit with those three key squares. That the best way to win it is then to, without messing around, come to c8 here, and yeah, you're going to be winning all three of these pawns. But you can also win it this way if you play c5 check there. That's important. If you just took this pawn, black can draw with c5, and there's no way you can make progress. You needed that pawn further up because it's the same situation, but now there's no way to be clever and get your king to d5 whilst maximising. Remember, we only just did it when we got the king to d6, and now we can't really maximise the time it's going to take black. Well, black just needs to take the a pawn and meet king d5 with king b4. In fact, you're in danger of losing that if you're not careful. So this is still a draw. This is still a draw. King b3 is what black should play here. And white can still draw this and then comes back to the beginning of... So maybe it is all connected in the end. It's hard. I mean, there's obviously different sections in these endgame books, but it's hard to separate them all out. There's an overlap, isn't there? Like opposition and mined squares are both, in my view, a subset of corresponding squares, which I'll do a video on. I like corresponding squares. It's a good topic. But yes, this is obviously any king move forward, we're in big trouble. We have to come back and defend that pawn temporarily. It's obviously going to fall. And even here we've only got one drawing move. Remember, when black takes the c pawn, we've got to be able to play king c2 so we can draw from there. Even though apparently some board one playing for the Scottish women's team in some time in history apparently resigned a very similar position to this. Anyway, I think that's enough from me on key squares in the opposition just before it gets to the hour mark. Hope there's some useful stuff there.